Oh. Tammuz is one of the only 2 months in the year. Tammuz and Tevet are the 2 months of the year that are completely on the side of Esav. So we spoke about how the year was divided between Yaakov and Esav. And in the beginning it was 6 months and 6 months. And then in the struggle between Yaakov and Esav, more of the year, more of the energy of the universe went over to the side of Yaakov. And then it became a month and a half in the winter and a month and a half in the summer that is on the side of Esav. So next month of Av until the 15th day is still on the side of Esav, but then the energy lightens up after the 15th day of the month, and we know we celebrate Tu B'Av, which is a celebration. It's after Tisha B'Av, it's after the 9 days. It's sort of when we come out of, and that's a day of love and hope, and Tu B'Av is sort of the lightening of that energy. So this month is entirely an Esav month, as is the month of Tevet, but we also know that those are the months that are going to be completely transformed. So that's why the day of 17th of Tammuz is one of the only days that still remain at the time of Mashiach as a day that we observe, but it's going to be reversed. It's going to be flipped over to a day of rejoicing and joy.
What does it mean that it's a day of, that it's the month of Esav?
It means that the energy in the universe is a more chaotic Esav energy. It's a harder energy to work with. So it appears dark. Mm-hmm. It appears difficult. It's a time of mourning, which is not to say that we walk around sad. So what we're talking about this month is how we use that energy and transform it to a place of redemption, how we understand those tears to be something cleansing and bringing us to a place of, how we see the light within the darkness, how we observe the darkness is how we ourselves are. So are we observing it as darkness, or are we observing it as a light that's so great that we can't even look straight into it? So really about working on our vision and how we relate to the world through our vision in this month and clarifying it. So even though it's a difficult energy, it's not a month in which we need to be sad. We need to find joy in it. We need to be able to work through that energy and come to a very deep place. We work through very strong emotions in this month. You know, the idea of the sartan, the crab, the cancer, which is the sign of this month, is an animal that sort of scoots sideways, and they say that Cancerians are try to avoid dealing with emotions because they feel the emotions very deep and they try to avoidance. And the tikkun for that in this month is kind of we have to deal with the emotions. Are you a Cancer? No.
No, but,
I see that giggle. You know people who are. But they feel emotions very, very strongly, which is why they try to sidestep their emotions. And the tikkun for that really is diving into it and understanding that, yes, it may mean a lot of tears, it may mean grief, it may mean working through difficult stuff, but we got to work through that to come through to the other side. So we try not to avoid working with those energies this month. We work with them so we can come out on the other side.
So kind of using the flip side, the positive side of Nissan, and integrating that into Tammuz.
Yes, exactly. We're going to work through the more difficult energies. Nissan's very easy, but there's a shadow side to that. And sometimes if you don't balance that out, if we only receive and we're like, oh, we're still in that state, we're just passively open to all our gifts, it could turn into taking, it could turn into jealousy, it could turn into everything's mine. I want to possess that, I want to possess this. And no, not everything is for us to possess. Not everything in this world is meant to be owned by us or possessed by us. Some things are just meant to exist as they are. And we don't need to possess it in order to appreciate it. And you know, we can practice that on our own, passing by a boutique on Madison Avenue. When you look at a beautiful designer piece of clothing, do you need to own it? Or can you just appreciate it for its beauty? Can you look at something and say, Marabu Masacha Hashem, how great is your creation, your creators who can conceive of such a beautiful thing and create such a beautiful thing. I don't need to own it to appreciate its beauty and what it brings into the universe.
You know, it's like child is growing when it's just born.
Yeah.
We are all happy when the child is taking food and sleep and water and everything. And while he is growing up, We want to teach him how to be appreciated.
Yes,
share
and
with
to
your
give.
mother and share with your
Exactly.
brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
And it's not that easy because he still wants to, everything belongs to me,
Exactly.
to me.
And that's why toddlers are the most jealous
Yes,
creatures
yes.
that exist. And that's it. That's what we're working. Exactly. That's a very good point. You know, we can't stay in that newborn state of Sivan, of Nisan. We can't be in that state of spring always. We need to grow up. And part of that is working with the other side, not letting us get to that point where it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. If you ever heard, that's basically the first word of most 2-year-olds. Mine, mine. Everything is theirs.
You gave him
And
more.
yeah.
You love him better.
Yeah, and that's part of growing up is appreciating that no, not everything is mine, and that's good. That's okay. That's the way the world works, and it's a positive thing.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah,
So desire in and of itself is a positive thing, right?
Yes.
Because if we don't desire it, we'll never get it.
absolutely.
So how do you balance that and make the desire positive as opposed to the desire jealousy?
Right, because is the desire? What are you desiring? Do you desire things that they say? The kina sofrim tar b'chachma, the jealousy of scholars increases wisdom. So if we desire spirituality or knowledge, then we're increasing our own potential. If we look at a person and we appreciate how good they are, how positive they are, and we desire that, we increase our positivity. If we look at something physical and desire it, then it's a black hole of need. There's no way, we don't grow from that. It's an endless pit. So desire to connect, to elevate ourselves, to be one with the universe, these are positive desires. If that desire is leading you in that direction, that's a positive desire. If the desire is leading you to a place of physical need, and desire for food is necessary for survival, right? We need to have an appetite so that we eat. God forbid if we have no appetites in life, that's depression, that's the opposite of life. So appetite is part of life, but only in so much as it enhances our quality of life so that we can be more spiritual, giving, uplifted. If it's a need, what's that?
Like if it becomes excessive, like if it's not like your quality of life, it's like just flash or something.
Right. I had like a really interesting experience actually. I'll share with you guys, a little personal, but it's interesting with desire. And it's like it's a funny story. I don't even know what to make of it till today, but I'll share it with you. So I never owned any designer handbags. It was never something. I'm not I'm not a particularly materialistic person. I mean, I won't say I'm not in any way. Of course, I have but I never had this desire to own a brand name designer handbag. It was never in my consciousness. And I went into, it was the bagel shop, actually, which you must know. One day, my cousin was there, and she had a handbag. She had a purse over her shoulder, and it was really the most beautiful purse I ever. Something I was drawn to it. It was beautiful, and I was like raving to her about it. I was probably got a little weird about it. Like, that is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, what is that bag? There was something about it that was so original and different, and it really caught my eye. It spoke to me. And she tells me, yeah, it's a Miu Miu bag. I didn't really know much about these things. It was a while ago. And I was like, oh, great. So I was like, I want that bag. And I never, bags to me were always sort of something functional. I never thought of them as but this was the first time I saw a bag and I was like, oh, I really want that bag. So I come home and I Google it. And I see that it's well over $2,000 bag. And I'm like, oh. But it was weird because it entered into my consciousness as something that I wanted. Maybe because I saw it on her shoulder and not in a boutique in Madison Avenue where I wouldn't have expected that I should own it. But maybe having seen it on somebody, it felt accessible. I felt like it could be mine. And then I got this bug in me that I needed to own that bag. I needed that bag. And I really this was a few months. It was really weird. I was every day on eBay and I was there's this website, Bag Borrow Steal, there's this where you could I was I have to, I had this weird need to possess that bag. It was very, very strange. And my husband saw me after a while, like really obsessing about this. He had never seen this in me. He's like, listen, if you really, really want it that badly, I think you probably should have it. Like, you shouldn't want something that much and not. And at that point, I was almost ready to buy it, which was like absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't afford it. It was, that or rent, it was like it was not within reach of that. And something stopped me. Like I almost bought it, and I came to a realization that no, this is not my life. It's not the life I chose. I didn't choose to go into a field. I could have married a businessman. I didn't marry a businessman. I married a rabbi with the full knowledge that this is not a lucrative profession. And this is not my path in life. My path in life is not to acquire materialistic things and brand name things, and that's not where my needs are. And I want to grow spiritually, and this is not my path. And then it was very interesting because the minute I felt that I could have it, and I decided I don't need it. I don't even, this is not something, it's not for me. It's not for me. And the desire completely went away. It actually completely disappeared. I had no more desire. And there's a weird addendum to the story, which is part of what. So a week later, my cousin called me. And she said, you remember that bag that you loved? Okay, I swear this happened. This is the strangest story. These things happen to me in my life. She said, remember that bag? She says, remember you saw me in the bagel? She thought I would not even remember. She said, remember you saw me in the store a few months ago and I had that bag? I was like, yeah, I do actually remember that black Miu Miu bag. I know exactly what you're talking about. I could tell you where to buy it, where not to buy it, how much I could get it for on eBay. She says, well, I always give my last season's handbag to my sister, who's also a rabbi's wife, actually. She said, but she told me she doesn't need it this time. She still has the one I gave her last year, and she says, perfect. So I remember that you really liked it. Do you want it? Isn't that weird? This actually happened. So I was like, yeah. I'll take it. It was interesting because at that point I was like, it was a gift. It was completely came from outside, and it was very interesting. And the weird thing is that since then, which was maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I don't know how long, every few years, a designer handbag comes into my life. I have not bought one as of yet. But somehow, somebody will give me, or my husband goes on a trip and the guy there is you really should bring home something for your wife, and he sends his wife to buy me a designer hat. There's many different ways that it's come into my life, but somehow every few years. So maybe that letting go of the need to have it opened up,
Yes.
or maybe it was something that I needed to have in my life, but in a different way. It had to come to me in a different way, or I don't know but my little story with desire and overcoming that. And, I think what the Eben Ezra is saying about the maid and the king is, and then God forbid you hear of people having an affair or overstepping. Jealousy, the reason jealousy is so terrible is because it's really it's the gateway. It's what opens you up to all the other cardinal sins, right? Once you desire something that's not yours, it opens you up, God forbid, to lying, to stealing, to God forbid, every evil that's known to man comes from first thinking that we can have something that really doesn't belong to us. And nobody commits any of these things without first breaking through that jealous barrier, believing in some part of their mind that they could own this thing that is not rightfully theirs. So when you can be in that mindset that actually this is not for me, this is not mine to own or possess, when you understand those boundaries really clearly, there's no room for jealousy. When there's no jealousy, everything else falls away.
So you want this bag because you like the bag. but not because you are jealous why that nice
Yes.
lady has
Yes.
this bag.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That's
Absolutely.
sick.
Yeah.
The desire is for the bag itself, not
Maybe
for
you really need this bag.
maybe.
Who knows? This
Maybe
is-
Hashem thought I did,
yes,
apparently.
This is,
Right when I decided I didn't, Hashem was like, actually, you do need a Miumi bag. Okay, fine, thank you. Yeah.
I have another question. So you said that the lowest maid wouldn't want the king, but maybe she might want like the maid manager, right? Like because that's
Yes.
more tangible.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
does that work that way? Like if we desire something, in a sense, it's something that we can have. Because we
It
wouldn't even
means,
desire
right,
something.
we
that's-
only desire something that we believe somewhere in our minds we could have. If we don't believe in any part of our minds that we can have it, we won't desire it. But if we really understand boundaries, Kedusha, holiness is all about boundaries. It's all about setting the parameters for which we exist within those parameters. If we think in one part of our brain that on Shabbos we could possibly light a fire, if there's a part of us that might think that that's a possibility, then, or drive a car, whatever it might be that we don't do on Shabbos, but there's a part of us that thinks, but if I'm running really, really, really late, and I'm not going to make it, I could, or I could. If there's any possibility, then eventually you'll go over to that side. Then eventually you'll believe that belief will take you into that. When you set your parameters, when your parameters are absolute, when Hashem's law, when something belongs to you, is yours, and when something doesn't belong to you is not yours, you will never overstep that. You won't even desire it. You won't even believe it to be within the realm. That healthy desire is something that's within the realms of Kedusha, something that's within the realms. You can't desire to eat pork. That's an unhealthy desire. If it's not kosher and it's not for you to consume, it's not for us to elevate, it's not going to help us spiritually, it's not meant for us, then we don't desire it. We don't desire it because it's not for us. And when you really believe that something's not for you, I've never eaten pork before. I grew up kosher, which gives me an advantage because for me it's always been absolute. So if I pass by a stand on the street that's selling something and it smells really good, I can appreciate that it smells good, but I don't desire it because there's no part of me that believes that I would ever eat that, so I don't even have a desire for that.
Yeah, you put it very well, saying to build boundaries.
Exactly. It's all
this
about the
is-
boundaries.
Yeah, because this makes you conscious
Yes.
of it, and the
Yes,
rest is
exactly.
not important.
and
Exactly.
the important thing is, desire controls you or you control the desire.
Yes, that is very
This is
important.
very important.
That's a very important part of the
Because
parameters
the
of desire.
Human being has to be above all this emotion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So desire comes from a very unified place. Desire comes from water. All water is what gives birth to desire, and these are the months of water. So these are strong months of desire, which is a very positive thing if we can be on top of it, if we desire that which enhances our life, is within our parameters. So in that way it's very, but it's also, these are very outward months, right? So we're exposing ourselves a lot in these months. We're more social, we're more outward, we're taking off our layers physically as well. There's immodesty, perhaps, there's like extroversion in this month. So we really need to protect ourselves in this month on a higher degree as well from desire and jealousy that are not positive, that are not in our parameters. And any other questions or thoughts?